Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the council meeting for Monday, November the 27th, 2023. Please rise for the playing of the national anthem and a moment of reflection.
Oh, Canada.
Please be seated. At this time, I will look to Councillor Lindell to read the land acknowledgement.
The land on which Council meets today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many Indigenous peoples made up of First Nation, Inuit, and Métis. The Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement should remind us of our responsibility to ensure the dish, the territories on which we live and work, is never emptied, and that we take care of the land and its inhabitants in a way that ensures its future sustainability.
Thank you, Councillor Lindell. Moving on to the mayor's report. Last week, myself, CAO David Oakes, and Brian York were in Ottawa for 2.5 days to advocate on behalf of the city in a variety of different areas of federal jurisdiction. Most significantly, we had a good meeting with the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure, Minister Fraser, as well as Parliamentary Secretary and our local MP, Chris Biddle. The discussion was very helpful with the Minister, and he seems very keenly aware about the work going on here in St. Catharines to meet our housing pledge and continue the provision of more housing in our community. Additionally, we were able to connect with members of the marine industry on issues that are important to this large and growing sector of our local economy. I know Councillor McPherson was also in Ottawa last week on behalf of the city as a part of FCM doing advocacy work as well. I'm sure she'll provide an update at the end of the report today. She's just been notified she's giving a report at the end of today. Today, I was pleased to join Minister Fedeli, the Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, as well as Minister Lumsden and MPP Osterhoff and staff from Heddle Shipyards for an exciting announcement for the marine industry. Heddle, the largest ship repair and construction company on the Great Lakes, announced an investment of more than $107 million towards tackling complex vessel life extension projects at the Port Weller Dry Docks right here in St. Catharines. This investment will bring 30 new good-paying jobs to the region. As part of the investment, the provincial government is providing Heddle with over $3.4 million through the Advanced Manufacturing and Innovation Competitive stream of its regional development program. Thank you to Heddle Shipyards for your commitment to St. Catharines and Niagara, and for your continued investment in growing the blue economy here at the entry point to the Welland Canal. Budget and public engagement opportunities. The city is currently working on the 2024 to 26 multi-year operating rate, which is water and wastewater as well as parking and capital budgets. And we're looking to residents for input. Community input ensures that our budget reflects what services and programs are important to you, and lets us know where you think our resources should be focused. There are many ways for residents to provide feedback about the budget. I am going to be turning things over to our budget chair in a moment, Councillor Garcia, but I will mention that on Wednesday, November the 29th, that is this Wednesday from 7 to 8 p.m., we'll be conducting a telephone town hall. That'll be focused solely on the 24 to 26 budget. Telephone Town Hall is an opportunity for residents to give feedback and learn more about the subject from the comfort of their home. If folks want to ensure that they get a call, they can head to stcatharines.ca/call list to make sure that their phone number is registered. Otherwise, it's a random call out to, I believe, 40,000 telephone numbers in the city. So there's a good chance you get called anyways, but if you do want to make sure you are called, please go to stcatharines.ca/call list. As well, between December 5th and 15th, city staff will be hosting interactive budget sessions at budget kiosks located across the city. This will be an opportunity to meet the budget team, ask questions, and provide feedback on the multi-year budget, as well as learn more about the process. The full list of dates, times, and locations of those kiosks is on the city's website at engagestc.ca/budget. And you can also provide your feedback by completing the budget survey, which is located at the same place, engagestc.ca/budget. We want as much feedback as possible in the coming weeks from residents, so please get involved. And at this time, I will turn things over to Councillor Garcia, as he has a couple of other budget feedback opportunities to talk about.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Council knows, we had a council budget meeting on November 22nd, so I would like to share with the public particularly a bit more following up on what you just said. So at that meeting on the 22nd, staff presented to council 3 budgets for 2024-2026. The capital budget, the water and wastewater budget, and the operating budget. And these are now available on the city's website for anybody who wants to look at them, just under the agenda for November 22nd. Now, I want to make sure that everyone here, but particularly the public, understands that this year's budget process is different, as it is the first one under the new strong mayor powers. So the mayor will be responsible for tabling his budget on January 3rd. Between now and then, he wants to hear from us councilors and from the public with comments and suggestions, and which he will take into consideration before he tables his actual budget. There are also, as the mayor just said, plenty of opportunities for the public to participate between now and then. And you can look those up at stcatharines.ca/budget. In particular, we have 2 open houses, one tomorrow night and one a couple of nights later. And I would certainly encourage any councilor that can to attend, and particularly those who are members of the Budget Committee. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Garcia. So as you mentioned, Tuesday from 6 to 7 at Seymour Hanna, and on Thursday from 6 to 7 at the Kiwanis Aquatic Center. And I do encourage members of the community, get out to the open houses. Please make sure you're tuned in for the telephone town hall. If you have further questions, check out those budget kiosks, and please, please, please fill out the survey. All of that located at engagestc.ca/budget. I want to send out a few congratulations to the Sports Hall of Fame inductees earlier this month. Councillor Phillips, our deputy mayor, was able to help out with the ceremony. I was not able to be there, but he was able to be a part of the induction ceremony for the 5 new names which were added to the list of inductees. Congratulations again to the 2023 inductees: Don Betts for bowling, Clayton Brown for rowing, Mike Iggleton for hockey, Jane Traguno Stamp for rowing, and Bob Miller for basketball in the builder category. I also had an opportunity to help celebrate the 125th anniversary of the DeQ generating station. I want to say thank you to Nick Pender, Ray DeJong, and Jen Grassi over at OPG for the tour of the generating station earlier this month. And congratulations on 125 years of power generation in Niagara. It was one of those fun, geeky physics teacher moments for me to be able to get down, look inside of a generator, actually get to see the turbine spinning and look at the stator and the rotor, things that I get to teach kids about, but I've never actually seen in real life, which was awesome. So There you go. That's what I geek out about. That and football, but there's nothing fun to talk about football right now. A couple of business openings in the community. Fat Rabbit, which is located at 34 Geneva Street, is a restaurant focused on shareable plates and a butcher shop with a community feel that calls back to the butcher shops of old. Congrats to Zach Smith and his team on their opening, and welcome to St. Catharines. I will just say it was the greatest breakfast sandwich I've ever had in my entire life. Magic Hour Needlecrafts and Yarn Shop, located at 227 Bunting Road. Congratulations to Donna Murphy and her daughter Serena for opening their new location here in St. Catharines. A very cozy spot if you are someone who enjoys needlecraft or yarn. Very colorful, very cozy. They have chairs set up, all kinds of programming. I learned a lot about yarn that I did not know previously. And although not a new business, I did have my first visit to Arrowhead Coffee Company, located at 514 Queenston Street. It's a Canadian veteran-owned and operated coffee roaster inspired while on deployments with Canadian Armed Forces. The company began in 2016. In 2021, they opened their coffee lounge here in St. Catharines. Their mission isn't just great coffee, but it's also to give back to the greater sheepdog community, including veterans, law enforcement, and emergency services. I highly encourage coffee lovers to visit the Arrowhead Coffee Lounge for your next cup of great coffee. I strongly recommend the Go Juice. There were some flag raisings. On November 21st, we raised the Wrapped in Courage flag at City Hall in support of Jillian's Place and Woman Abuse Prevention Month. We want to be a community where everyone feels supported. Raising the Wrapped in Courage flag is a visible commitment to ending gender-based violence in Niagara and encouraging survivors to seek help and support. Last week, we raised the flag at City Hall to honor National Addiction Awareness Week in support of Community Addictions Services of Niagara, or CASN, sorry. The flag raising brings awareness for those who suffer from addictions to drugs and alcohol and is an important step towards reducing the stigma that people may feel due to the addictions. And on Friday of last week, we raised the Positive Living flag in honor of AIDS Awareness Week. With this flag raising, the hope is to foster unity and understanding leading up to World AIDS Day, December 1st. Thank you to the staff at Positive Living for the work that they do in our community. And finally, a couple of upcoming events. First of all, Let It Glow, a celebration of light, returns this year with its family-friendly outdoor festival of interactive light installations, entertainment, and cultural programming. The launch party takes place this Friday, December 1st at Rennie Park from 5 to 8 p.m. and features visits from Spider-Man, Buzz Lightyear, Christmas Bell, The Grinch, and Santa. New this year, visitors can take a ride on the historic Lakeside Park Carousel, which is opening for this special event. So a wintertime carousel ride, if only it would snow, but I think it's going to be 9 degrees. In addition to the launch party, Winter at the Market is back again on Wednesdays in December from 4 to 8 p.m. at St. Catharines Farmers Market. Patrons can pick up holiday baked goods and local wine, as well as toys, jewelry, and other handmade gifts from local artisans. And December 10th, residents can enjoy a free skate at the Meridian Center from noon to 4 p.m. along with a photo session with Santa and Mrs. Claus. Batman, Elsa, Bluey, and Paw Patrol characters will be on hand to meet with visitors. For all your Let It Glow details, visit lovestc.ca/letitglow. I look forward to seeing all of you this holiday season. And finally, on Tuesday, December the 12th at 12 p.m., will be the city's 33rd annual Civic Christmas Carol concert at St. Thomas Church. The event will feature music from Laura Secord Secondary School Concert Choir, the St. Catharines Civic Brass Ensemble, and the Ridley College Vocal Ensemble. The doors open at 11:30 a.m. and the donations to community care are encouraged. With that, I will open the floor if there are any councillors that wish to add anything, including Councillor McPherson, who's going to give us a report on her advocacy work. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to give a big thank you to all the residents and members of the community that came out and helped support the Grantham Lions Club turkey raffle last Friday night. It was very good. They gave out turkeys and hams, and all the money goes back to local people in need here in the community as well. And actually on Saturday, the 25th, the Salvation Army, I was invited to their the Citadel there on Niagara Street, and they had a Christmas concert, and it was the kickoff of their annual kettle program. So they'll be out there ringing the bells with the kettle, collecting money for all the programs that they do throughout the city in Niagara. Thirdly, this Friday, December 1st, the Windward Drive area, the residents there are having their annual Christmas walk. It's started last year. It's very good. A lot of the neighbors It's well decorated in the neighborhood, and there's little stations for hot chocolate, and they have some little movies for children and everything, and they're asking for donations, I believe, to community care and Jillian's Place as well. And finally, this Sunday, December 3rd, from 8 to 10 and 10:30 to noon at the Grantham Lions Club, there is a breakfast to meet Mr. and Mrs. Santa Claus. So thank you. Get out there and enjoy.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Councillor Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Adding to what Councilor Stevens just said, on Saturday, December the 2nd, we will have the annual lighting of the Christmas lights on Rio Lane, which are quite spectacular. If any of you can attend, or if you haven't been there, make sure that you do. It's quite an amazing sight. The whole Rio Lane is a little lane, as the name implies, off Orlando there, off Linwell, and it's a short street, but everybody puts out amazing lights, and everybody's invited. Secondly, I just wanted to mention that the mayor and I attended on Saturday a very solemn celebration. I shouldn't call it a celebration, but a commemoration of the 90th anniversary of the Ukrainian Holodomor, which is the Ukrainian word for genocide by famine. So it commemorates the event in the early 1930s when the Soviets under Stalin decided to punish the Ukrainians, and they withdrew all the food, and millions of Ukrainians starved to death. So it was quite a moving ceremony, and we heard a particularly moving keynote speech by someone whose mother was a survivor of this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garcia. Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I spent 3 days last week in Ottawa with FCM for their Advocacy Days. It was a great experience, great opportunity to speak with colleagues from across the country, coast to coast to coast. We heard from Federal Minister of Housing and Infrastructure and Communities, Sean Fraser, the Shadow Minister for Housing and Diversity and Inclusion, Scott Atchison, excuse me, and NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. They also did Q&As. Some interesting information was provided by the Union of Municipalities of Quebec and the Saskatchewan Union of Municipalities Association, SUMA. It's so much easier to say when you just say SUMA. And they have in place agreements with their provincial government to capture a portion of the provincial sales tax, and that provides a more stable, more equitable funding model from the provinces. And FCM is actually looking, or is asking the federal government to do something similar, and also encouraging all of the provincial municipality associations to look at and advocate for that. So there were over 100 meetings between local leaders and MPs. I attended 3, one with Larry Brock, MP Larry Brock, Selma Zahid, and our MP Chris Biddle, and we spoke at length. It was a great opportunity. We were able to provide information about our own communities. We weren't really expected to kind of just go with what FCM was providing, but we were able to talk about our challenges and the problems we're facing, as well as some successes. And the big thing that was released from FCM was their new research paper that's on Canada's housing challenge, is also an infrastructure challenge. So as part of that report, I did send links to everybody this afternoon, but the highlight for me, and kind of I'm gonna say bad news, not necessarily good news, is that on average across the country, the cost of the municipal infrastructure required to support the new housing goals that have been established works out to about $107,000 per home. That's across the country, an average. So when we consider that we're kind of expecting or need to build 5.8 million homes, we have a pretty large infrastructure gap.
Can I ask, is that $107,000 per new home?
Per unit, yes.
Per new unit, okay.
Yeah. And that number does not include costs to operate and maintain any of the assets, adapt to climate change, or provide emergency services, or health, or education, information technology, or electrical infrastructure. So that's a good news story there.
It's almost like development charges have a purpose.
Right, it's weird, that. And I guess the best part, I mean, the part I enjoyed most was being able to speak with counselors and colleagues from across the country, and it reminded me that the problems we face are pretty much exactly the same, if not very, very similar, and it didn't seem to matter whether I was talking to the mayor of Yellowknife, Halifax, or Paradise, Newfoundland. We're all experiencing the same challenges, and it was a great opportunity to talk about ideas, what things they've done or they're trying, and just suggestions. So I truly believe that when we join together, we can solve the problems together and make our communities better. There is an invitation to all councillors to attend the FCM conference in Calgary. Maybe not all, because I'm imagining our deputy CIO is panicking a bit. At June 5th to the 9th in Calgary.
All right, thank you, Councillor McPherson. Councillor Dodge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to give you an update on AMO. We had an AMO meeting last week, and I'll just give you a quick synopsis of some of the things. We've once again started having the MOU meetings, and they're going very well. We've met with Minister Calandra a couple of times now, and they're great meetings. There's other ministers there as well, so it gives us a real heads up on things that are going on there that they want to keep us informed about. And then we had quite a long discussion on healthy democracy and workforce development projects, and just a few of the things that we touched on that I think that we've all had the experience of coming into contact with social media, the good and the bad of it now, the lack of the local media, where I think that while we were saying that a lot of information that gets out through social media and stuff is kind of like there's no credence to it, and we don't have any local media that can kind of put the news out there. It's kind of like whatever you read online and things like that, and how that affects not only ourselves as councillors and you, the mayor, but our staff as well, when we have to deal with some of the things that people, think are one way, but maybe perhaps are not quite that way. It was engagement from all sectors are there, and they're trying to be very inclusive of everyone for the upcoming elections, and trying to find out why people ran and why they didn't run, why the voter turnout's very low, and different things like that. And they're putting quite a bit of time and money into that as something they feel is very important. And I think that we all would like to see more people come out to the table and vote and whatnot. We discussed the budget, as well as we have a new brand coming out in August. It'll be presented with the upcoming conference. So we're pretty excited about that as well. And then on Friday as well, when we were having our AMO, the province was having a housing forum, and we were looking forward to the results, which we haven't heard anything about how that went on Friday. And then the CHRA study on community housing was released on Friday as well. So those would be my comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Dodge, and thank you for your representation on that committee for us and the updates that you provide. Councillor Miller.
Yeah, I just wanted to say the Meriton Lions are hosting their turkey and ham roll this Friday night. I'll be there handing out turkeys. It's also the annual elimination draw. I think tickets are probably sold out for the elimination draw, maybe a couple left. But it's free admission Friday night. If you want to come out, buy some tickets, try to win some turkey and ham, meet your favorite Meriton councillor. There'll also be a cash bar. And finally...
Wait a minute, is Councillor Lindell going to be there?
You know what? I've committed to volunteering handing out turkeys. I'm not sure if Councillor Lindell has done the same, but I'm hopeful that we'll see her there. And it's also a reunion party, so you're encouraged to wear an ugly Christmas sweater or your best Meriton-related attire. This is my way of strong-arming her into volunteering with me and handing out these frozen turkeys that are so heavy.
All right, thank you, Councillor Miller. Would my Meriton Bulldogs hoodie be appropriate wear if I happen to stop by? Wonderful. Wonderful. Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had the opportunity to represent you on Sunday, November 19th at the recent Niagara Symphony concert. They hosted the cultural consul, Mr. Matsui from Japan. There was 8 drummers from, they're called taiko drummers from Nagata Shatsu, and they performed along with the symphony. It was quite an amazing event. Some of the drums were bigger than that podium in front of me. One was particularly much bigger, and almost a record number of people showed up. They had over 600 people in attendance to watch that. And to go along with that, talking about Christmas concerts, Saturday, December 16th, Sunday, December 17th, Brad's Home for the Holidays concerts will be held. There will be vocalists from Toronto performing, and the highlight of those concerts will be, there's a book called, where is it here? The Snowman, and part of that concert will be the soundtrack from that book. So I invite everybody to attend. There are seats available, and there's some seats that are discounted rate towards the back. So support your symphony. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Councillor Kushner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a question and then a comment, and the question is addressed to Councillor McPherson, who attended the meetings in Ottawa, and to hear the figure of $100,000 for municipal infrastructure per unit is very revealing, because for years we're always told that we have to have growth, because with growth you have profits, you have profitable growth, and therefore growth pays more than pays for itself. And now we don't know if that's true, but the fact is we still have to have growth because of increasing population. We have to have corresponding housing units. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kushner. And Councillor Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My apologies for speaking twice, but Councillor Lindell graciously reminded me that on Monday I had the honor of representing you for the tree lighting for the celebration of lights on behalf of Niagara Health Foundation. So Councillor Lindell attended with me, as well as Councillor Stevens and Councillor Harris, of course, because the event is supported by Electra. And we had representatives from Electra, from the Niagara Health Foundation, and representatives from our MP and MPPs. And it's a great event because, of course, it helps raise money for all the equipment that Niagara Health needs. And we encourage everybody who can to donate to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garcia, and yes, thank you for representing me there. That was much appreciated. And I think that brings us to the end of the mayor's report, and thankfully one councillor who does not like long mayor's report is not objecting this evening, so that's good. No amendments to the agenda this evening, so can I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Councillor Lindell, Councillor Phillips seconding. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Adoption of the minutes, that council adopt the minutes of the regular council held on November the 13th, 2023. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Townsend, Councillor Stevens, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest this evening? All right, seeing none. Then we'll move on to item 5, the motion to move consent reports. Councillor Stevens has requested that we endorse 6.6, that's the correspondence report. Sub-item 1, a resolution from Township of McKellar regarding call for an amendment to the Legislation Act 2006. And Councillor Garcia has requested to pull item 6.3, engineering facilities, environmental services, engineering and construction, Riverview storm sewer repair phase 2, award of project, from consent to discussion. Councillor Kushner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd ask that item 6.5 be pulled.
Item 6.5, which is the vacancy policy. All right. And with that, with that then, council, we need a motion to approve the consent agenda, save and accept those items brought forward for discussion. Councillor McPherson, all those in favor? Oh, no, wait a minute. I have to look to the clerk. Sorry. To the clerk.
Today's consent agenda includes item 6.1, CRCS, St. Catharines, the 2023 St. Catharines Culture Investment Program funding recommendations for round 3 and 4. Item 6.2, EFES, Welland Avenue at Export Avenue, request for controlled pedestrian crossing. Item 6.4, Municipal Works, bylaw to regulate the uses that occupy or require the temporary closure of or otherwise affect highways. This sets a public meeting for the next meeting, which is December 11th. And item 6.6, council correspondence, save and accept that sub-item 1 will be endorsed. Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Miller.
Yes.
Councillor Phillips.
Yes?
Councillor Garcia.
Yes?
Councillor Dodge.
Yes.
Councillor Kushner.
Yes.
Councillor Lindell.
Yes.
Councillor Ratzlaff.
Yes.
Councillor Stevens.
Yes.
Councillor Townsend.
Yep.
Councillor Williamson.
Yes.
And Mayor Cisco.
Yes.
And that's carried.
All right, so there are no public meetings today. There are no presentations, so we will move directly on to number 9.1, Community Recreation and Culture Services, Business Planning and Strategic Services, the Recreation Facility and Programming Master Plan Update. Prior to discussing the report, Phil Christie, Director of Community Recreation and Culture Services, will provide a presentation. Mr. Christie, the lectern is yours. You look rested, sir. I look forward to fireworks.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council and senior staff in attendance. I'd like to provide you with a summary of the Recreation Master Plan, and I'm here to present to you some of the highlights of the city's Recreation Facility and Programming Master Plan, also known as the Master Plan, the Rec Master Plan. The chair of the committee really wanted to be here, but unfortunately Jim Richardson is away. He's on some cruise ship somewhere in Asia, I believe. But he wishes that he were here today.
Taiwan today, I think.
There you go. This evening, I'd like to go over with you a background of the plan, what it was meant to do for the city, the current status of the recommendations, the 83 recommendations that came out of the plan, and the proposed next steps to keep the momentum going. We've built some significant momentum, and we'd like to keep that going with your assistance and your support. In 2014, City Council invested in the creation of the Recreation Facilities and Programming Master Plan by hiring a third party, which specializes in this field of work. In May of 2015, the plan was presented to Council, and Council approved the consultant's recommendations and moved it forward. Since then, staff have been using the Rec Master Plan as a guide towards creating a version of St. Catharines which can be called the city where everyone can play. The Rec Master Plan is really a strategic document that we've been using that guides the development, the management, and enhancement of our facilities and programs. As I said, it included 83 recommendations and some other 22 sub-recommendations that were based on a comprehensive methodology developed by the consultant, considering regional trends, best practices, demographic composition and projections, and alignment to municipal roles and priorities. In addition to the vision statement of the city where everyone can play, the document identified these 10 guiding principles that were used to direct the recommendations of the plan. As you see here is a breakdown of the 83 recommendations. We're proud to share of the status, those that have been completed, all the way to those that have not yet been started. So we've identified 11 items that have not yet been started for various reasons. But as you can see here, we've made some significant progress in achieving most of the 83 recommendations identified. In 2016, council also established the creation of an advisory committee to do the work set out by the master plan. And the committee has been integral to the success of the implementation of the key deliverables by serving an advisory role to council and staff. The committee meets monthly, and we've been very fortunate to have had committed, interested, and invested individuals as members. And I would urge Mayor and Council to say hello by participating in our meetings and thanking members, past and present, for their contributions to our community. In September of this year, the current committee developed its work plan and identified the need to update the Rec Master Plan as its highest priority. This slide summarizes the impact of the Rec Master Plan, and it's probably the most telling slide of all. These policies, these plans are a direct result of the recommendation of the Rec Master Plan and the collaborative efforts between the advisory committee and council and staff. Just a few examples as part of this list would be our parks at Bogart Street, splash pad at Bogart Park, the Meriton Splash Pad, the creation of the Parks Legacy Fund, and the resulting parks from that program. So that would be Partridge Park, Happy Rolf's, and the soon-to-be-built tennis dome in Meriton. We've got a new updated facility allocation policy, and we've received calls from many municipalities asking us how we developed it and how it's working so far. So we're happy to share that information with other municipalities. Multiple partnership opportunities, such as those with the DSBN, the Meriton Lions Club, Rotary and Kiwanis Clubs, Tennis Clubs of Canada, and the St. Catharines Tennis Alliance. Recommendation 83 is perhaps the most important at this stage because that recommendation specifically asks staff and council to consider an update to the Rec Master Plan. The Rec Master Plan was only intended to last until 2026, so we're at that stage now where we've set aside some dollars in our upcoming budgets so that we can go ahead and, with council's direction, of course, we can go ahead and hire a third party to renew this plan. Which brings us to this last slide. These are just some pictures of the recent projects that we've been able to complete. We're very proud of the work that the Rec Master Plan has been able to help us complete. And these parks, you know, I wish we had more before and after pictures, but these are really the fruits of the labor of both staff and council, and we thank you for your continued support. And I'm happy to take questions if you have any.
All right. Mr. Christie, you can stay up there, or if you want to head back to your chair, it's up to you. All right, so we will look then to Councillor Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Christie. Just a quick question. Do you and the committee recommend that the same consultant that was used originally be used again for that update, and assuming they're still available?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, without compromising the city's procurement policy, I'm not sure how I can answer that, but they did a great job for us, and they've done other plans and policies for us, so we would definitely hope that they would submit a proposal when we put it out there. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Garcia. Councillor Kushner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. They're all very great ideas and very acceptable to the population at large, but when can we expect priorities with dollars attached to them?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Kushner, can you give me an example of what you would mean by that?
Well, if you had $1 million, where would you spend it?
Well, so through you, Mr. Mayor, we do get an annual capital budget. And what we've been able to do, Councillor, is to address what we can with the allotted budget to us. And so we've always looked at health and safety first. So when we replace, for example, playgrounds and other play amenities, we base that on condition of the asset. We've done the same for we base decisions on our aquatic strategy. So all of those policies support our decision making, and we've always run them by council. So the priorities that we have been able to address are ones that we've always come to council with, and council's always supported us. So I'm not sure if you're referring to other priorities that we haven't been able to address, or if there are other priorities that we should be looking at.
Well, I'm referring to all priorities because when I read the report, I find it somewhat generic, that you could take those principles and apply to any other municipality. How much has the consultant cost so far?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in 2015, the consultant was paid $150,000.
Okay, I have a concern with that because I would like to see specifics. Where are we most deficient with respect to our play for all people?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, well, we can certainly be more specific when we put out the next tender or the RFP for this, Councillor, but the current recreation master plan did identify certain things such as partnerships, sponsorship and advertising. It told us that we needed to address our play assets and our playgrounds. It told us that we needed to address our outdoor pools because they were aging. So those were priorities set by that original plan, and we've addressed them. Have we addressed all of them? Probably not. With our limited budget, I don't think that we would have been able to. And certainly when we update this new when we update the current rec master plan with a new one, we're hoping that it will tell us new priorities, if you will, help us identify new priorities and what the city actually needs. For example, it talked a lot about, the current rec master plan talks a lot about doing more for youth. The youth cohort is very difficult to deal with right now because it's difficult to get them engaged between a certain age group, and the rec master plan acknowledged that in 2015. We continue to have that difficulty today, and that is across the recreation industry. We see them coming back to us when they're looking for work. So what we're trying to do is to create an environment where there's a continuum of participation from when they're really young to when they need work. So we don't lose them in the middle, so that they have a more participatory relationship with us as opposed to one that's kind of come and go. So long answer to your question, but that's the best I can offer you at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kushner. Councillor Williamson.
Didn't I? Am I good? Sorry. Old, used to the old ways. Some of these, I guess, are questions. Some are probably more appropriately put as comments at the end. I guess one comment, though, and I think since our recreational spaces are often parks, and since because we declared a climate change emergency and because we're acknowledging the state of the importance of the natural environment as well, and many of our reports just say that there's no environmental sustainability implications, and of course we know that there's a million environmental sustainability implications. So I think that's something that we do recognize, even though it's not stated in the report. So that's supposed to be a question. So would you agree with that, Mr. Christie?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, and then some specifics. Item 33 on the golf courses still mentions Fairview Golf Course. I think we can probably eliminate that from the discussion as a golf course, any chance it could be a golf course, and hopefully we'll, because it's gone, we'll put some greater emphasis on keeping Garden City Golf Course open. And then to, okay, leash-free dog parks, this report somewhere talks about a leash-free, new one established north of the Queen Elizabeth Highway. And Henley Island, even though it's not supposed to be officially a leash-free dog park, is used, and the Humane Society seems to allow it to happen and not interfere. So I think we need to consider where that fits into the equation. Is that something that you're aware of?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, Councillor, we are aware of that, and we are actually, we have two concepts up on the city's website related to the Fairview design, and the notion of dog parks was very much top of mind for many people. Lots of people support it, and lots of people didn't support it. Right. So it was great discussion. So we're very aware that that's one of the things that we haven't yet completed. That's one of the 11 items not yet completed. So yes, we're very aware of that.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily want to drill down on this item too, but as well, Eastport Weather Pier, the Nicholson Trail, it's also used as a leash-free dog park. And I think it's important we get some, it's not my ward, it's Grantham ward, but I've talked to ward councilors about it as well. We need some signs because there has been some negative interactions in that particular area, and it's not really a place because families take their children, et cetera, there, and sometimes the dogs create problems there. So that's a conflict we should, I think, be concerned about. Other than that, I just have some comments which I'll keep till later. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Williamson. Councilor Lindell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Director Christie in the municipal golf course. It says that in the report that if it doesn't become financially feasible, that it would look at repurposing it to a natural. Have we looked at different ways of delivering food or drink to golfers at the municipal course? Because that's the one thing that I hear all the time. For instance, I know we will have food trucks come to our school and get 20% of the gross, and it's a lot of money for one day. Is it something that we could do to help increase the revenue at the golf course?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, may I defer that to Director Smith?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we're always looking at other options for the golf course on food delivery and such, but we have to recognize the limitations of our licensing at the golf course. So what we need to do when we deliver those, if we look at an alternative delivery model, it has to meet the requirements of our food and alcohol license.
So would food trucks be something that would fit in that, or?
At this point, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But we can look into that.
Okay. The other question I have is, you talked about meetings with senior adults on ongoing basis. Are those still happening?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. We are meeting with them on a regular basis, and our staff are actually part of the formal name escapes me, but there is a working group across the region that gets together on a regular basis to identify new programming ideas based on older adults' needs and wants. So.
And is that publicized somewhere so they can get new members?
Yes, I can circulate that.
Okay, thank you. Also at the Kiwanis Center, going with diversity and inclusion, is there any plans to put doors or curtains on the change rooms in the women's and the men's change room so that people can change comfortably in there instead of using the family-friendly change rooms?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to start and then defer to Director Martuccio if he has additional comments. We have talked about that, Councillor. It was identified as part of the committee's work, and they assessed the building. I'm not really sure as to the status of that, if any capital dollars have been set aside for that, so I'll refer that to Director Martuccio.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there's currently no plans on installing privacy. However, it doesn't mean that staff can't have a look at that to see what can be done to provide better service to the community.
Okay, because I've had some residents who have said that privacy would be a good thing for them. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Councillor Lindahl. And then we will go to Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. We're fortunate at Grantham that Bogart Park has been completed, and as recreation people refer to it as a recreation hub, because there's so many opportunities there as far as soccer, 2 new tennis courts, basketball, handball, you name it. Is that something that you see that you have as a goal for each ward to develop a recreational hub similar to the Bogart Park hub?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Bogart certainly presented itself as a model for future projects where we can take advantage of the many features of the park. You know, it's unique in that it has a building, so we didn't really need to build a new washroom, and which allows us to put many more things in the park. But certainly, yes, that would be our vision where we can and where space allows, to be able to create hubs where community can gather is always top of mind for us, Councillor, and certainly the design, you know, like I said, whenever space and budget allows, we would certainly strive for something similar to Bogart.
Thank you. And as far as Fairview Park is concerned, when do you feel that the final layout is going to be complete for residents and for council to see? We're in a hurry to get that done. It's been on the board for a long time.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor, you said Fairview, right?
Pardon?
Did you say Fairview or Sunset?
No, Fairview.
Fairview. The engage page for Fairview just closed. We had it open, seeking public input. So that just closed, and we are meeting with the consultant, I believe, in 2 weeks' time for them to present to us another concept, if you will. They had narrowed it down to 2 sets of concepts, and so based on the public's feedback, they're going to create one, and so they're going to present that to us, and then we're going to come to council probably, we hope, by January or February, so we can be moving ahead, moving forward.
And when do you hope to get construction started?
Through you, Mr. Council, that's a tougher question to answer, Councillor. We have no capital dollars set aside for it yet. So there was still quite a ways from, I think, construction for that project.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. All right, Mr. Christie, I see no more questions, so you are released. At this point, that was largely question and answer, so if there are any actually, no, sorry. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the report, first of all? Councillor Phillips, Councillor Lindahl. So the recommendations on the screen to receive the report for information. Any comments or further questions? Councillor Kushner, followed by Councillor Williamson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would hope that in the second stage, we get more specific recommendations because, as I've already indicated, I found these 2 generic, and it has to be geared to the city of St. Catharines. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Kushner. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to reiterate the point about the environmental sustainability aspect of this. We can't just be checking the box, and this isn't just for this report, it's just generally speaking, but when we're talking about parks, where we have a lot of our urban forest canopy, it's important that we keep as much of them green as we possibly can and be aware of the fact that that offers us a carbon sink, a heat sink, having the green spaces in the city. And when we're surrounded by asphalt and concrete, it's a definite need. When we're talking about recreation in the city of St. Catharines, it's, over the last number of years, it's impossible to not acknowledge the loss of the YMCA, which I hear from people on a daily basis, an indoor aquatic center, double gymnasium plus fitness center and courts. So that has been a substantial blow to a lot of people's day-to-day social and recreational activities. And I think that it does need to also be acknowledged in here. As well, we do have the great summer games facility up in Thorold, but to a certain degree, that's not accessible to a lot of St. Catharines people, and we need to also acknowledge that in the update that is coming forward, or the refresh of the Recreation Master Plan. So just a couple comments that I think needed to be made. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? Mr. Christie?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I just wanted to address Councillor Williamson's last point. We have been running daytime programming up at Canada Games Park, Councillor. So city staff have been running it, and the programs have been well attended by residents from across the region.
All right. Seeing no further comments, I will look to the clerk to call the roll.
Councillor Phillips.
Yes?
Councillor Lindell.
Yes.
Councillor Stevens.
Yes.
Councillor Townsend.
Yes.
Councillor Williamson.
Yes.
Councillor Garcia.
Yes.
Councillor Dodge.
Yes.
Councillor Ratzlaff.
Yes.
Councillor Miller.
Yes.
Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Kushner.
Yes.
And Mayor Cisco.
Yes.
And that's carried.
All right, we move on to item 9.2 and the strategic plan refresh and community survey results. Before we get on to the report, I'll look to Ms. Ohosky, the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer, for opening remarks.
Thank you, Mayor Cisco, to you, through you to members of council. Just wanted to start off by saying again, just a tremendous thank you for participating in the strategic planning session on October the 18th. It was a great discussion and very thankful for your leadership and guidance over the course of that discussion. When the discussion concluded on October 18th, what we committed to doing was taking the results of council's discussion at that session at the Rowing Center and providing opportunity for comment from the public. We did that through a survey that launched on October the 27th and closed on November the 13th. What you see before you this evening is the results of that survey. What we've done is in Appendix 1, you'll see the outcomes that came out of the discussion on October 18th. And right beside it, you'll see suggested changes based on community input through that survey. The survey yielded 548 responses. And what I would say is that the results were very similar to what council had determined as the working version of the strategic plan refresh. They're very minor amendments. The vast majority are just a reordering of some of the strategic directions as well as the priority initiatives based on the community feedback. The themes and results from the survey are available to you in a series of infographics attached as Appendix 2. What we're asking for this evening or recommending is that the results of Council's October 18th session with amendments as determined through community feedback be approved as the refresh for the strategic plan that would continue till the time of the existing strategic plan, which was to 2028, with a check-in with the new council in 2026 to see if it still reflects their priorities and their vision of success the way that staff checked in with all of you after the 2022 election. So asking, again, hoping that there's at least a 70% level of comfort from members of council to move forward and have put this forward to you for your consideration this evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Ohosky. Can I have a mover and a seconder so that we can discuss this? Councilor McPherson, Councilor Ratzlaff. So we have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation in the report. Are there any speakers to the motion? Councilor McPherson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm hoping everyone will be okay with it, but I wondered if we could modify the vision statement by breaking it into a vision statement and a mission statement. I did speak to the CAO about it, and Deputy CAO, and I elevated you. Look at Yeah, exactly. My thought process behind it is to just provide a bit more clarity for the residents as well as ourselves in looking across the different vision, mission, value statements that other municipalities have done. They've broken it into a vision and a mission statement. The vision is generally a bit more aspirational, whereas the mission generally provides the how we are going to achieve that. And I just thought that hopefully everyone can support just the breaking of it into two and just providing that bit of clarity for both ourselves and for the residents. Thank you.
So there is an amendment up on the screen there. And it is your motion, so I would assume you think it's friendly. Councillor Ratzlaff, is that friendly to you as the seconder? Yeah. Okay, so it's indicated as friendly by both. So this is the amended motion as it exists. Councillor Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the Deputy CAO and Trish Sorrenti who worked on this. I have a couple of concerns. I have no problem with the concept of breaking up the vision and into vision and mission. My concern is that based on the community feedback, we have essentially taken out innovative, which I think is an important concept, and replace it with safe. And I have a concern about safe because I'm not sure how responsible our city is for safety. It seems to me that a lot of that falls under the purview of the region in terms of policing and other responsibilities. So through you, I will ask Deputy CEO to comment on that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Garcia. Thank you for that question, Councillor Garcia. I would say that safety came out overwhelmingly in both the comments and the results of the survey questions. In terms of your concern, well, the city's not actually responsible for a lot of the programs and services that are directly attributable to community safety. I actually, in my opinion, the amendment suggested by Councillor McPherson helps with that because the vision really is about the type of community residency St. Catharines is being, whereas the mission really identifies what the city of St. Catharines' role is. So it does help provide that clarity. Whereas, safety maybe not generally part of our role, maybe more part of advocacy, partnerships, and so forth. Whereas in terms of the city's role in achieving that, it's focused on accountability, affordability, innovation, and responsible stewardship of community resources. So it was included because safety, and you'll see that on the first page of Appendix 2, really emerged as the top adjective as the type of community that residents indicated, or respondents of the survey indicated was important to them. But completely council's prerogative if council wishes to change that back to innovative.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. No doubt that the public would certainly consider safety very important. As I said, I'm just saying in terms of our vision, yes, we can envision a safe community. I'm just saying I don't know that we necessarily have a lot of control over that. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would ask Councilor McPherson if she would be okay with reinserting the term innovative in the vision if we leave safe, but okay, that's friendly? Okay.
Councillor Ratzlaff? If we could just open up Councillor Ratzlaff's mic.
Yes, I'm sorry. I thought Councilor McPherson was a
mover. No, it's mover and seconder. I'm just asking whether it's okay, friendly or not.
Oh, sorry.
So innovative did get dropped to the mission. So you can see we still have innovative up there. It's just in the mission. So it wasn't in that part before, and now it is. I mean, just because we don't pay for the police doesn't mean that we aren't responsible for safe parks, safe streets.
Councillor,
those types of things.
Counselor, no, we're not going to debate it. I'm asking you if it's a friendly
It's not
amendment.
friendly, no.
Okay, so then we will make this, Counselor, would you like this to be an amendment and we can debate it? Counselor Garcia? Sure, so the mover has said it's friendly, the seconder has said it's not friendly. So we can make it an amendment and we can debate the inclusion of the word innovative in the vision. So asking to make an amendment? Okay, so at this point, just nobody touch anything so I can make sure I have my list. All right, so I'm going to clear the queue. If there's anybody who wishes to speak to the amendment, but before we do that, I'm going to ask, can we just put it in the vision? So this would be adding the word innovative after safe. Okay. So if we could put that in the vision and let's highlight it. Highlight it in yellow so that we see just the word safe. Just the word safe. Safe is going to remain in there. Nope.
Sorry. Add the word innovative. Okay. And only highlight innovative.
Exactly.
Okay.
There we go. Perfect. So we are debating the inclusion of the word innovative in the vision. At this point, if anybody wishes to speak to that, they can add themselves to the queue. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the word safe is a good word to use. You don't, there's many different definitions for safe. Councillor Garcia is thinking of just policing alone, but to provide a safe city
So,
also.
Councillor, I'm going to jump in.
Is that what we're doing?
Nope, we're not. The word safe has not been asked to be removed. We're just debating whether to include the word innovative.
Oh, okay. Well,
Do you want to speak? No? Okay. Does anybody wish to speak to that? All right, seeing none, I will look to the clerk to call the roll on whether we include the word innovative in the vision.
Councillor Garcia.
Yes.
Councillor Kushner. Yes. Councillor Lindell.
Yes.
Councillor McPherson. Yes. Councillor Miller.
In favor.
Councillor Phillips.
Yes.
Councillor Ratzlaff.
No.
Councillor Stevens.
yes.
Councillor Townsend.
Yes.
Councillor Williamson.
Yes.
Councillor Dodge.
Yes.
And Mayor Cisco.
Yes.
And that's carried.
All right, so we can take the highlight off of the word innovate, and we are back to our speaking order. Councillor Phillips, could I ask you to press your button? And then Councillor,
Mr. Mayor.
oh, wait a minute.
I wasn't finished, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, were you not finished? Okay, wonderful. Then
Okay.
I'll turn that off. Hey, Councillor, can you turn yours off? I just want to get us back to the speaking order so that I have the appropriate. So in a moment, Councillor Garcia, I'm going to ask you to press your button. You want to press it, go green, and then Councillor Phillips, Councillor Stevens, and then Councillor Ratzlaff. Oh, for the original speaking order? On the main motion? Okay. All right. Councillor Garcia, you are back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the Deputy CAO. I have two concerns, other concerns. Under guiding principles, I'm concerned that after incorporating the input from the survey, that essentially we no longer have affordability in there. And I think that everything that we have heard tells us that affordability is a very, very high priority for our cities. So I don't know if that requires an amendment, but I would certainly like to see what we had before, which is respect for community affordability, be maintained under guiding principles.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, my sincere apologies, Councillor Garcia. I think that got omitted in a version that we were finalizing. So with council's indulgence, I'd like, if it's okay, to add that back in. That's a complete error on my part. Take accountability for that.
Thank you. And my last concern, Mr. Mayor, is down the appendix under economic prosperity. Let me just get there. miss it? I cannot find the exact reference right now, but under economic prosperity, I know that on the left side, after the session we had at Henley Island, we had CIP review as the very top one. And after the public comments, we either deleted it or lowered it down the list quite a bit. And I'm concerned about that because I'm not sure that the survey really does justice to this, because I don't think the public in general really understands the concept of CIP and why we're concerned about it and why we think it's a major concern and priority for the city. So through you, if I could ask the Deputy CAO to comment on that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Garcia. So I can confirm that both the Community Improvement Plan review and while that review is underway, the continued operation of the community plan that were discussed by Council on October 18th are still there. The rationale for moving the order is pertaining to the Appendix 2, page 3 of 6. In terms of some of the feedback from the community about helping existing businesses stay and grow in the city, being the quite, in terms of frequency, the one that emerged on top. So based on that feedback, staff have suggested a reordering, but should council wish a different order that's closer to the version that council determined on October 18th, that's certainly council's prerogative to do so.
Well, Mr. Mayor, through you, would that require an amendment to change that order, or?
It would, yes. You'd also have to suggest where you want to see it in the order.
Okay.
Right now, so for clarity, on page 3 of Appendix 1, it was slotted in on the right-hand side as number 4 of 9.
Right. So my proposed amendment would be that we keep it as number 1 as we had it based on the feedback that council gave on October 18th.
Okay. So, Council McPherson, friendly or no? Can we open up Council McPherson's mic?
Thank you. Just sorry, this is just purely for clarification. To the Deputy CAO, as part of the process for making the amendments, it was based on the community, it was based on both taking the weighted conversations we had and then weighting the community engagement with that, correct? So if the community, so you things got rearranged based on how the community provided feedback. So I'm somewhat hesitant, or maybe you could just explain how you weighted those two different things when it came to the process?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor McPherson, it was exactly that. It was taking the what council had determined on October 18th and getting feedback from the community. Largely the same issues were raised, the same types of initiatives were brought forward. When a community was asked for other potential ideas, it was mainly a reinforcement of the results that they had already selected in the multiple choice. So really there was no substantive changes beyond the reordering. Staff have suggested these changes for council's consideration as the final version. Should council wish to go with a different ordering, that's up to council.
Councillor, again, is it friendly? It is friendly. Councillor Ratzlaff? Friendly? All right. So then additional amendment will be that the community improvement review be moved to number 1 on the modified ranking. under economic. Okay. All right, Councillor Garcia, do you have more? You're done? Okay. So, Councillor Phillips. You pressed your button again. Don't pretend you didn't. Can we turn on Councillor Phillips? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Someday I'll get used to this thing. I think I'm going to be stealing some of Councillor Stevens' thunder, but as far as the word safe is concerned, every level of government is responsible for the safety of the residents in Canada and our municipality, all the way from the federal government down to our school board. As far as we're concerned, I agree with Councillor Garcia. We're not responsible for policing, but however, as Director Christie said, we're responsible for maintaining, making sure that our playgrounds are safe. To Councillor or Director Smith, we're responsible to make sure that the sidewalks are level and there aren't any tripping hazards. So we have a big responsibility in making sure those aspects of our community are safe. So I think it's important we leave that word in there.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'll agree with Councillor Phillips. And one of the things I just wanted to add about safety is also like, we're responsible for lighting, street lighting, roads, make sure our roads are safe, signage and all that kind of stuff. So not policing as per se, it's a region. The city has a big responsibility to provide a safe city to our residents as well, as Councillor Phillips and Garcia said. Can I ask something about this economic one now? Is this the same thing? I think if we discussed it at our session, and it was on number 1 and 2, and then after consulting with the citizens of the city, and they don't feel it's quite as strong, I don't feel that we should be bumping it back up to number 1. We should be listening to the residents of the city, and if they don't feel it is quite as strong, I think this is our opportunity to listen to the people of the city who always say that council doesn't listen to them a lot of times, and this is one example where we can listen to them and leave it down there at number 4 and 5, and that's why I think it should be.
So, Councillor, is that your way of asking if we could separate the final clause and vote on it separately?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, wonderful. All right, are there any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we will call the roll in just a moment. I did want to make one comment. I wanted to start off, I'm going to say thank you to a couple people. First of all, to the Deputy CAO, Ms. Ohosky, as well as all of the folks in the CAO's office who made the strategic planning evening and all of the work that went into that, which was much more than a single evening, I promise you, for putting this together, for doing all of the work on the back end to present this tonight. Sincerely appreciated. I'm going to thank Councillor Dodge again. I did on the night of, but I think it's important to give credit where it is due. And Councillor Dodge pushed this process throughout this year, both at the Standing Budget Committee and at Council. So I appreciate that. I just wanted to make a comment with respect to the strategic directions and the priority initiatives and where they're ranked. And I actually appreciate the comments that Councillor Garcia and Councillor Stevens made. I think they both make very valid points. I'm going to raise one particular piece, and the priority initiatives under social well-being, and this one just sort of jumped out at me. Because I worry sometimes that we place too much importance on where things are ranked and where they are listed. And whether we're listening to residents or whether we're listening to the will of council, whatever the case may be. Number 9 on the list of the social well-being is wastewater infrastructure grant applications, flow monitoring, incentives, advocacy. And it's all the way down at number 9, and it didn't rank very high with council particularly either. I know I ranked it very high, but I may have been the only one. The reason why I ranked it very high is because there are a number of things on that list that are much higher up on it that if we don't do number 9, wastewater infrastructure grant applications, flow monitoring, incentives, advocacy, then the other stuff doesn't happen. And that's the reality for a lot of the initiatives that are on here. There are some things that just by necessity are going to have to happen before other things happen. And we're not, and this is not a knock against any of my colleagues here or any members of the public, but one of the benefits we have is an exceptional staff that we'll phase these things through in the order that makes the most sense for us to achieve the goals that we have. We have an exceptional professional staff at City Hall, and they do, I think, exceptional work on a regular basis to make all of us look good. So I would suggest keeping that in mind, because I think we could probably have a debate for many, many hours, and I'm thankful we're not, about where things fall in the ranking. And I think what we have to keep in mind always is that these are the things that are on the list. And as they come forward, they're going to come forward at different times. They're going to come forward in different orders, maybe from the way they are written and quote unquote ranked. But the important thing is that we are prioritizing them and that we have asked staff to make these our strategic priorities going forward. So with that, I will look to the clerk to call the roll.
So we will vote on the highlighted item first. So that's the reprioritization of the CIP review. Councillor Garcia.
Yes.
Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Ratzlaff.
No.
Councillor Stevens.
No.
Councillor Dodge.
Yes.
Councillor Kushner.
Yes.
Councillor Phillips.
Yes.
Councillor Miller.
Yes.
Councillor Lindell.
Yes.
Councillor Townsend.
Yes.
Councillor Williamson.
Yes.
And Mayor Cisco.
Yes.
And that's carried. And now the vote on the main motion. Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Ratzlaff.
Yes.
Councillor Dodge.
Yes.
Councillor Williamson.
Yeah.
Councillor Garcia.
Yes.
Councillor Townsend.
Yes.
Councillor Kushner.
Yes.
Councillor Stevens.
Yes.
Councillor Lindell.
Yes.
Councillor Phillips.
Yes.
Councillor Miller.
Yep.
And Mayor Cisco.
Yes.
And that's carried.
All right, item 9.3, Engineering Facilities and Environmental Services, Engineering and Construction, Riverview Storm Sewer Repair Phase 2 Award of Project. This was requested to be moved to discussion by Councillor Garcia. Can I get a mover and a seconder for
Actually, before we do that, the director did just need to step out for a minute. He'll be right back. So I'd suggest perhaps we just flip the order of the next two items, if that's
All right.
okay.
We are moving then to... we were moving then to 9.4, which is our vacancy policy. So can I have a mover and a seconder to put the staff recommendation on the floor? Councillor McPherson and a seconder, Councillor Miller. All right, any speakers to the motion? Councillor Kushner?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm not supportive of the staff recommendation. I know the recommendation is with response to a council directive that our present policy be reviewed because there's some dissatisfaction with it. I'm a supporter of the present policy because it is based on democratic voting, and it served us well in the past. And if you don't allow the electorate to decide who the councillors will be, and you have the councillors decide, then there's a possibility, as we've seen in the past, that the choices by council are based on personalities and whether they think like us or not. And we've heard they don't think like us, so therefore they shouldn't be appointed. And we need something very objective, and we have to accept the decision of the electorate. And Councillor Dodge earlier indicated that at AMO they're concerned with low voting turnout, and a motion like this will not encourage people to vote. In fact, it'll discourage people, because if I vote and there's a vacancy, my vote doesn't count. Because with our policy, if the runner-up gets a respectable percentage, which I think we designated as 70%, then that person would be assigned to the seat. Otherwise, we're violating the democratic concept of the electorate deciding, and I think that's wrong.
Thank you, Councillor Kushner. I just ask you to close your mic so that others are able to jump in. I will push back on just one thing you said. You made a comment that some had said they don't think like us. Now, I've been here for a number of different vacancy debates. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that an individual doesn't think like them. And I would simply say I think that's an unfair characterization of the debates that have gone on. I think you are correct in that personal feelings have entered into that. I don't dispute that, but I don't think it's a fair characterization to say that any member of council has ever stated they don't think like us. And I will leave it at that. If we can open Councillor Kushner's mic.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, with due respect, I disagree.
As we are all allowed to do around the table, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Councillor Miller.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing you said. I'd never heard anything like that. I think that's, I don't know where that suggestion's coming from. We had a very good discussion last time. We had a couple vacancies. They might have been around people's integrity, but I never heard anything about, you know, getting in line with the way we think, which would be an impossible task with a council of 12 to 13 people. I do think the one thing to sort of to Councillor Kushner's one point you made about voter turnout, I mean, in my ward, we had a 20% voter turnout in the last election. One of the main things I hear when I ask people why that happens is they don't feel themselves are represented. They don't see the point. They see a lot of the same people on city council year in and year out, and they want to see more diverse candidates and feel despair at not seeing that. So I think any policy which gives us the ability to factor in diversity and equity issues is going to be a good one. It's not. It's a factor. It's not the be all and end all. And I think that's actually going to encourage more people to take an interest in municipal council because I think and I hope we're at the absolute nadir of public interest in municipal politics at this point. So anything we can do to change that, I think, is a step in the right direction.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Councillor Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Reading that new policy, I guess the concern that I would have is that it tends to give equal weight in the selection of who to appoint to members of this council and the candidates that ran for election to regional council, for example, and then we have the choice to select somebody from the community at large who have to submit a proposal and give us their information. Is there a way through you to the city clerk, I guess perhaps, that, or anybody in staff, that we could perhaps rank these in some way so that the first priority would always be to the next person in line that actually ran for the position that we are appointing somebody for. And then after that, we can select somebody from the public if we're not satisfied with that person.
Through the chair, it is council's policy, so it can say whatever council wants it to say as long as it does not go against the Municipal Act or the Municipal Elections Act. Ranking the options that council has to fill an appointment or fill a vacancy by appointment is something that was discussed at length at some of our equity committees. Listening to the direction from council, which was basically to provide options or an opportunity for council to make an appointment that either fills a representation gap or other gap on councils would be counterintuitive, I think, to ranking them. So I think it is a decision of council as to whether council wants the flexibility going forward to make the appointment that they see necessary in that specific situation, or if you want to follow what you did in the past, which was based on who was the next runner-up. It is council's policy, so it is up to council to decide what is in the policy.
Thank you for that explanation. Mr. Mayor, I'm just not comfortable. I feel as anti-democratic not to have as our top choice somebody who ran for the position that we're trying to fill. So I would not support the recommendation.
Okay, Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As someone who was appointed to council and came in third, I will say that I think that the recommendation by staff makes a lot of sense. I mean, our first choice is to, appoint someone who is, did come in third. I think it's up to us to make that decision as to which one is the most appropriate. I don't necessarily believe that it needs to be ranked. But I mean, there are cases where I appreciate that it's spelled out about that a candidate, it could be a qualified person, because in the case of my appointment, there was no one else. There was only 3 of us that ran. So the opportunity to make that clear that it could be a member of the community, I think is important to have it laid out. And I don't really see how this is anti-democratic when it's ultimately council's decision. So I'm quite supportive of this motion.
Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually believe in having a by-election when there's a vacancy like that. I mean, example, if there's 4 or 5 people running in the ward, and the first 2 people are elected, and for whatever reason there's a vacancy, and you're elected, some of us are elected with 3,000, 4,000 votes. The next place is 200. 200 doesn't mean that was the will of the people. Added 20% of the people that voted in the first place too. That brings that number down to nothing. That isn't the candidate for that position. And as far as democracy, I mean, we're built on that you're elected to the position. So if it's empty, there should be a by-election, just like they do in the province and they do it in the federal government. I know there is a cost involved, but I still think that's the proper way to fill a vacancy. Now, I believe towards the end of a term, you don't have to fill it if there's an election coming up, because I don't think we want a by-election if there's an election within 9 months or 8 months or something, whatever I think there's something like that to the clerk. But as far as I'm concerned, there should always be a by-election for a vacancy.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Councillor Williamson.
Don't touch it, right? Thank you. Well, there's some counter arguments that could be made here too. I do sense that it's somewhat undemocratic when the people don't have the say in the outcome. I also think if you're willing to put your name forward in a municipal election campaign during a general election, there'd be some disincentive to think, well, maybe I'll finish third, and if something happens to the other 2 candidates, I get pushed ahead. Well, now you finish third, maybe against an incumbent or 2, and you're not even given that fair opportunity based on what the voice of the people said during the actual election. So I too think that there should be more weight given to the actual results of how people vote, and not transfer the decision-making to council after the fact. I'm also a little tired of hearing excuses why people don't bother to vote. Get out. There's no reason. We're a country where there's no limitations for people to get out and vote, and if you aren't seeing people reflected and you don't bother to vote, well, it's your fault. It's your fault for not going out and bothering to vote. Let's face it. Let's have to take some personal responsibility here and not make excuses. So I don't agree with the policy, the recommendation, the way it's structured. I think that the results of the election should be paramount and should be more reflective, and that's, to me, the way that the policy read previously, although it wasn't necessarily interpreted that way. My thoughts.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to, I guess, be maybe the clerk. I'm not familiar with this, but in the history of, I guess, St. Catharines, there's been a by-election before for a city council seat or a mayoral position? If so, maybe could you?
I feel like you should have asked your seatmate as opposed to the clerk, but.
Didn't want to put him on the spot.
Because she's looking at Councillor Kushner right now, and he nodded his head. So she's about to say, yes, that has happened.
I have been advised by Councillor Kushner that yes, at one point in history it did happen.
So there has been a by-election, but I would say not in the last like 15 years, if I'm correct.
That is correct.
Any idea? I know right now there are a few municipal by-elections that have happened. I know City of Toronto is actually doing one this Friday for one of their vacant seats. Any idea on what the cost of a by-election is? I know we haven't done one in a long time. I'm just curious what the cost to the taxpayer is.
So through the chair, a number that I would hopefully not be quoted on if you were to choose to run a by-election in a few months for whatever reason, probably around $75,000. That would not include the staff resources existing resources that way we would allocate to the project as well to run it.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate staff putting this together. I do agree with a lot of my colleagues around the table with the comments that have been made. I think it's important to listen to the voting public. I like the concept of a by-election. However, if the candidate who is next in line has received a significant number of votes, then they should be moved into that to essentially save almost $100,000, I would guess, in taxpayer money. But that's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any other comments on this one? All right, seeing none, I will call the question momentarily, but before I do, a few thoughts. I will start off by saying that the reason why council gets to make the decision is because the Municipal Act explicitly gives us the ability to make the decision. And the Municipal Act was an act developed by a democratically elected level of government that felt that the best decision was going to be made by the council of the day. I don't believe that making a different choice is anti-democratic because, and I think we forget this is the only level of government where we would appoint the next person on the ballot. If our MP has to leave office for any reason, we don't go to the next person on the ballot and say, you're the MP now. We have a by-election. I would also say, I find it difficult for people to say that council making a decision is anti-democratic, but that would say we need to uphold democracy, but wouldn't vote in favor of a by-election. You're saying that democracy isn't worth it if you're not going to pay for a by-election. So we're either in favor of democracy and believe that this is all about democracy, or we recognize that this isn't actually about democracy. Because if it was actually about democracy, something to keep in mind, if, for instance, Councillor McPherson stepped away from her role and we had a choice to make about filling the position, anybody who voted for Councillor McPherson has now lost their vote. If we were just to go by the people who were on the ballot, anybody who gave a vote to Councillor McPherson has now had their vote taken away from them because they will not get a choice in who the person to fill that position is. They've lost a vote. They had two. They used it maybe for Councillor Ratzlaff and Councillor McPherson, but perhaps the third place finisher was not someone that the person who voted for Councillor McPherson would have chosen, but their vote is lost. So there's a lot of talk about standing on the tenets of democracy, but I think we have to recognize here that this is not as straightforward as people would like it seem to be if we just took the next person on the ballot. Because in that situation, many voters who took the time to go out to the polling station have now had their vote deprived because their choice wasn't able to fulfill their mandate. If we are truly talking about democracy, well, then the only option is a by-election. And to be frank, I'm fine with that. Outside of the March 31st onward period in the final year, if council wants to stand on the tenets of democracy and vote for by-elections, I will be in favor of that. As it stands, I don't know if we all want to do that. So with that, I will be supporting the policy that's in front of us, and I will look to the clerk to call the roll. Question's been called.
Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Dodge.
Sorry, when you were talking a moment ago, when you said that if the MP stepped aside or for whatever reason that they would have a by-election, I'm just wondering if in that situation it's because there's party politics involved in that, and you just can't decide democratically what party should step in if one party leaves.
No, it's because the democratic process says that you have a vote. That's what democracy is.
Okay, but what I'm saying is in municipal, there's no party politics, where
You are
with,
100% correct, Councillor Dodge.
okay, thank you.
I will look to the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor McPherson.
Yes.
Counselor Miller.
Yes.
Counselor Phillips.
Yes.
Counselor Ratzlaff.
Yes.
Counselor Stevens.
No.
Counselor Townsend.
Yes.
Counselor Williamson.
No.
Counselor Dodge.
No.
Counselor Garcia.
No.
Counselor Kushner.
No.
Counselor Lindell.
Yes.
Mayor Cisco.
Yes.
And that's carried.
All right, we go back to 9.3, Engineering Facilities and Environmental Services, and the Riverview Storm Sewer Repair Phase 2 Award of Project. This was requested again by Councillor Garcia. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the staff report? Staff recommendation, Councillor Stevens, Councillor Williamson. All right, and at this time, Councillor Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a couple of questions through you, staff. I was concerned to see that we were sole sourcing an $800,000 project. I understand the report says that there was some urgency, but through you to Director Martuccio, I guess, is this company that we're sole sourcing the only company that does this? Do we not have other suppliers that we're familiar with that we could get an alternative in case this is a particularly high price? Or
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. The company that we were sole sourcing to are the same company that did phase 1 of the work. And part of phase 2 of the work involves doing some modifications and entering through the first part of the work, so we're trying to avoid any warranty issues. They're also very specialized in the type of liner that is being used. There's different types of liners that are used for this type of work. This company is specialized in this, and they're the company that have helped us come up with the solution to the issues that we have with the storm sewer in this area.
thank you for that. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So you're saying that this company has already done the first phase, because I'm not sure I got that from the report. Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. They did phase 1 of the work.
Okay, my second question, Mr. Mayor, through you, I guess, to the Deputy CAO. The 800,000 is a large number. What is our threshold for approval of these projects? It's at 800,000, it has to come to council, is that correct?
Through the mayor to councillor, I think I would defer to Director Douglas, who's on the call, for the exact procurement thresholds, but it is in accordance with our procurement policy. I don't have the exact threshold in front of me.
Ms. Douglas, you're up.
Yeah. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, the threshold for approval above staff's authority is anything over 250,000 does come to council if there are not adequate budget dollars. In addition to this particular situation, because it is a sole source situation, we would also require council approval for the item.
Thank you, Director. And through you, Mr. Mayor, one last question, and I'm not sure if that goes to the clerk, but why did we decide to put this in the consent agenda, which is when it's such a large amount?
Through the chair, we made the decision to put it on the consent agenda versus discussion, as it wasn't asking for new money for funding. It's just looking to award based on sole source. So it doesn't necessarily change how much is being spent. Usually we would put it on discussion if we're requesting additional funding or new funds. That's when it would go on discussion, because it would have a budgetary impact.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dodge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is to I think that the motion that's up on the screen is not the motion that we're speaking to.
That is 100% correct. It was the other engineering facilities and environmental services. Still no. Other way. Keep going. Keep going. All right, we are going to make sure that it's up there before we actually get to the voting. I will say it's that council grant approval to award Riverview Storm Sewer Repair Phase 2 Project to Pipe Flow Contracting Corp. on a sole source basis at an estimated cost of $800,000 plus applicable taxes. Are there any other comments or questions? And we will wait for a moment to make sure that the appropriate motion is up on the screen. Oh, Councillor Stevens has offered us an opportunity to fill some time.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think this was more or less like an emergency repair job as well, if I'm correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
Right, so, okay, I just wanted to confirm that because I thought they were taking away some dollars to fix this road from Niagara Street or future development.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that was part of the previous report that came to council, which council approved.
All right, are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I will look to the clerk to call the roll.
Councillor Stevens?
Yes.
Councillor Williamson?
Yes.
Councillor Kushner? Yes. Councillor Miller?
Yes.
Councillor Garcia?
Yes.
Councillor Townsend?
Yes.
Councillor Lindell?
Yes.
Councillor Dodge?
Yes.
Councillor McPherson?
Yes.
Councillor Phillips?
Yes.
Councillor Ratzlaff?
Yes.
And Mayor Cisco.
Yes.
That's carried.
All right, there are no motions this evening. Calls for notice of motions. Councillor Phillips, you have one with respect to waiving fees.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The Kristen French Foundation offices are going to be undergoing some remediation, reconstruction, and they have programs that they're looking for space for, and it's been suggested by our staff that the rooms at the Kiwanis Aquatic Center might be available or would be available for these programs. They're looking for a waiving of fees, not a great deal of money. I think it was a little over $1,300 for this short period of time, and I'm looking for a motion for next meeting. If we can waive the rules now, we can vote on it right now, but if not, I'll be asking for for those fees to be waived.
Okay, so you can make a motion.
I would like to make a motion to waive the rules.
Motion to waive the rules is non-debatable. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So
Thank you, Council.
So then there is a motion on the floor to waive the facility rental fees. We're going to say with an upset limit of $1,500. Just to.
That's more than fair.
All right. I will look to the clerk to call the roll.
Councillor Phillips?
Yes.
Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Councillor Dodge? Councillor Dodge?
Yes.
Councillor Lindell?
Yes.
Councillor Garcia?
Yes.
Councillor Kushner? Yes. Councillor McPherson?
Yes.
Councillor Miller?
Me? Yes.
Bueller? Councillor Ratzlaff?
Yes.
Councillor Stevens?
Yes.
Councillor Townsend?
Yes.
Councillor Williamson?
Yes.
And Mayor Cisco.
Yes. That's carried.
And that's carried.
All right. Any report requests this evening?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, one more notice of motion.
Notice of motion.
I'll be bringing a notice of motion regarding permits, all contractors in regards to road closures. I'll bring that for next meeting, and I'll touch base with our Director of Planning as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any other notices before we move on? All right. Report requests. Do we have any report requests this evening? Seeing none. It's a night off for staff. Wonderful. Item 13 is committee and task force minutes. The council receive and file the minutes of the advisory committees of council as presented. Mover and a seconder. Councilor McPherson, Councilor Garcia. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Closed session. I'll look to the clerk.
There's 2 reasons to go into closed session tonight. The first is from the Office of the CAO and Legal and Clerk Services, legal services, obligations related to capital projects. And that will be closed pursuant to Municipal Act Section 239(2)E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality, and 239(2)F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. The second is the item from the Office of the Mayor, Administration, CAO performance evaluation, closed pursuant to Municipal Act Section 239(2)B, personal matter about an identifiable individual, including a municipal or local board employee, and 239(2)D, labor relations or employee negotiations.
All right, can I have a mover and a seconder to go into closed session? Councillor Phillips, Councillor Garcia, all those in favor? Opposed? And away we go. We are back. Motion arising from closed session. The first one is 15.1, Office of the Chief Administrative Officer and Legal and Clerk Services, Legal Services, obligations related to capital projects. The recommendation, moved by Councillor Miller, seconded by Councillor Lindell, is that council receive the update for information. Madam Clerk.
Councillor Miller.
In favor.
Councillor Lindell.
Yes.
Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Garcia.
Yes.
Councillor Dodge. We do not have Councillor Dodge back.
I'm here.
Oh, hi, Councillor Dodge.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Kushner. Councillor Phillips.
Yes.
Councillor Ratzlaff.
Everyone, Shark Tank.
Councillor Stevens.
Yes.
Councillor Townsend.
Yes.
Councillor Williamson.
Yes.
And Mayor Cisco.
Yes.
And that's carried.
And then 15.2, Office of the Mayor, Administration, CEO Performance Evaluation. The council approved the recommendation in the report from the mayor, moved by Councillor Phillips, seconded by Councillor Garcia. And I will look to the clerk to call the roll.
Councillor Phillips.
Yes.
Councillor Garcia.
Yes.
Councillor Lindell.
Yes.
Councillor Dodge.
Yes.
Councillor Ratzlaff.
Yes.
Councillor Townsend.
Yes.
Councillor Williamson.
Yes.
Councillor Stevens.
Yes.
Councillor Miller.
Yes.
Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Kushner. And Mayor Cisco.
Yes.
And that's carried.
16.1, bylaws. That the bylaws listed on the council agenda as A to F be read a first time, considered and passed, and that they be signed and executed by the mayor and the clerk. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Lindell, Councillor Stevens, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. 16.2, that the following additional bylaw A, be read a first time, considered and passed. A bylaw to authorize an agreement of purchase and sale for the sale of lands to Niagara Regional Housing. One reading with respect to 320 Geneva Street. Council, June 26, 2023, item number 15.1. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Phillips, Councillor Williamson, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And finally, that there being no further items of business, this meeting be adjourned. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Kushner, Councillor Miller, all those in favor? Opposed? Good night now.